Good morning. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Jamie Thom and Ms. Ashley Thom, successful entrepreneurs in the insurance industry. Mr. Thom has been in the industry for 22 years and was recently recognized as a top 50 independent agent for New York Life, a Fortune 500 company that is the third largest insurance company in the US. Ms. Thom has been in the industry 7 years, starting by assisting her husband in the business and then went on to become an independent agent herself with New York Life. They both live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and are the parents of two kids, a son and a daughter. Mr. and Mrs. Thom, welcome and thank you for taking the time to visit with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Wonderful. And as I said to you when we discuss this, we'll start with my first question. Can you tell us something about your business? What exactly is your business? Many students here may not have fully understood what the business is from the introduction.
Well, primarily, what we do is really bring peace of mind to families and business owners when it comes to financial questions that they have. There are a lot of different financial products out there. You have bank accounts, you have insurance, you have investments, you have retirement accounts, you have really thousands of financial products when you get right down to it. And really what we do is we help people plan for catastrophes now and also for their future moving forward, primarily for retirement planning. And we bring peace of mind to the table. So for consumers, individuals that don't know exactly what they should be doing to protect themselves and also to help themselves prosper in the future, we really bring clarity to that situation by listening to what their financial goals and objectives are, and then putting together specific solutions that work for them. And so, no two people are alike. And that's one of the interesting things about what we do, in my opinion, is that, you run into different situations every day and it requires creativity. So that's my take. But Ashley, what would you say?
I would just add to that as, as representatives of New York Life, obviously our first priority is making sure that our clients are covered with life insurance to protect their assets, to provide income for their spouse and children, and take care of any final expenses they may have. So the foundation is life insurance, just like the name, New York Life Insurance. But as we meet our clients, we really have a holistic approach to learning what their goals are and helping them with long-term goals in retirement. Jamie and I are both registered representatives with New York Life and also in the securities part of that, non-life securities. So we're able to talk to clients about what their retirement goals are, what their time horizon is, what risks they want to take, and put together a strategy so that when it is time for them to retire, that they have what they need, or the best that they can do depending on their time horizon and if when they retire.
Wonderful. And could you maybe briefly explain to the students what the relationship between the parent company, New York Life, and the independent agents is? Is it like the relationship between McDonald's and their franchisees? What's the nature of the relationship?
So with insurance, you have what's called captive and non-captive. Every insurance company they really have to choose a track. Some insurance companies have captive agents, which means that they are only allowed to sell products from that one parent company. Non-captive would be just the opposite. Non-captive would be where an agent can sell different products from different companies, and there's basically no limitation to that. So what's unique about New York Life is with the training program that goes through the first 3 years that the company provides, that new org agent is what we would call that, a first 3-year agent. They are captive, okay? And New York Life is spending, upwards of $100,000 over the first 3 years in training programs and so forth. Once that first 36 months is through, we become non-captive, and being non-captive, that means that we can then choose other products from companies if we feel the need to do so. We are not W-2 employees, so we're not considered employees of New York Life. We're considered independent contractors, which means that we don't have a management staff that's looking down over us, expecting us to do certain things. That realm of what we focus on really falls on us. So, if you ask 10 different New York Life agents what they specialize in, you're going to get 10 different answers. Some may specialize just in life insurance planning. My specialty is more on the retirement planning side, which is helping someone look ahead to accumulate assets for retirement. And then on the other side of it, when someone reaches retirement age, it's helping them create an income stream from the assets that they've accumulated. I like to focus on retirement planning, and that's really, I think, what I'm best at or most effective at. But you have other agents that may focus on federal estate tax planning. They may focus on investment planning, or they may focus on group benefits. That's something I don't do any group benefits, but Ashley is certainly has a few different groups that she does group benefit planning with. So that's kind of the nature of our relationship with New York Life. But on the other hand, we are considered statutory, which means that we get to share in company benefits. So that's that kind of separates us from being a true 1099 contractor. And I'm sure that you probably have some idea what that is, but because we're statutory, it means we get to share in a pension plan, retirement plan, health insurance, deferred compensation, accidental death and dismemberment, all of those group insurances we have access to because we're statutory.
Interesting. That's a very interesting arrangement. It's not fully employees, not fully franchisees, somewhere sort of hybrid, right?
Agreed.
Wonderful. Yeah. Ashley, did you want to add something to sort of what you specialize in? I know Jamie mentioned that if you have two agents, they're going to specialize in different things. So he mentioned what he specializes in.
And I specialize in a lot of the same things Jamie does. I do have some employee groups that we provide employee whole life that is payroll deducted. So there's a lot of industries out there that their employees may not be insurable. A lot of municipalities and just local governments, and so their employees are really not insurable because of different reasons, lifestyle, health. And so this is an opportunity that they have to get insurance through their work that with no medical underwriting. And so that's a big attraction for an employee to an employer, that they can take advantage of having life insurance to take care of final expenses that they wouldn't have the opportunity in the mainstream market. So I do enjoy working because I am from a small town. My employee benefits are mostly small towns around Baton Rouge, just because it's just my nature, and I enjoy working with small towns. But that's mainly where I work with employee benefits.
Wonderful. So one of the things we talk about in this class is how did the business start, right? And both of you came to this business in sort of different ways. So could you tell the students a little bit about how you got your start in this business? Why did you start this business?
Well, I grew up in a small town in North Louisiana, on a farm. And, when I was in college at LSU, uh, I never really was worried about what I was going to do after college because I was always expected to move home and join the family farm. So when I graduated in '99, with my bachelor's in agricultural business, um, that's really the only future I really thought I had, although I had always been interested in investments and how they work. And um, so when I moved home, farmed for 2 years with my father, Ashley and I were married right after I graduated. And I came to the realization in that 2 years that I really wasn't enjoying my career on the farm at age 24. Um, and, we got to talking one night and I said, if I want to do something else, I've always been interested in investments. I've always wanted to be able to help people make good decisions with money. Why not go ahead and give this a shot, to really be a financial advisor? And at the time, it was a huge risk that I took, because really most everything was set up for me back home. But we ended up moving to Baton Rouge in 2002, and I went to work with New York Life as an agent. Um, Really, with the deep down inside, what I really wanted to do is help people make good decisions, and provide guidance. But I knew that I had very, very little background that would very little background that would really lead into that. So I knew that I was going to have to be trained. Somebody was going to have to teach me how to do this. Someone was going to have to teach me how to be professional. So that's really what led me into New York Life. And when I jumped into the business, I was used to working 70 or 80 hours a week on the farm as it was. So I just got to the office at 7:30 every morning and was there till 5 or 5:30 every evening. And put a lot of time, put a lot of effort into it. Spent all my extra time educating myself, on insurance, on investments, on sales, on all of those things. And so I never really, I really got off to a good start. Of course, uh, Ashley was pregnant with Mary Scott right when I started. So I didn't really have a chance to be lazy or not work. I mean, this was do or die. So that is motivation. And look, any career you go into, if you want to do it well, is going to require hard work. But in order to work hard, you really need to be motivated by something, and you need to figure out what that motivation is. And for me, I mean, truthfully, if we're talking about what my motivation is, it was probably fear of failing, but it was the requirement that we have money to be able to raise a family. And so that's really how I got into this business.
So before we go to Ashley, let me ask you a follow-up question, which is you're discussing with each other that evening about, doing something else. But from there to say, I'm going to go become an independent agent with New York Life, I think there's a jump there, right? There's a step there that we are missing. Did someone tell you that this is a great opportunity that you could pursue this? Did you, how did you research this? How did you find out about this?
Well, the way I found out about it is Ashley's family had a relationship with the managing partner in Louisiana. And the managing partner in New York Life terms he is the recruiter and the overseer of a geographical area. In this case, we cover probably a third of Louisiana out of Baton Rouge. Well, it just so happens that Ashley's mother worked for Thom McConaughey years and years and years before. And so that was the first phone call I made. And I did interview with a couple of other companies too. I interviewed with Edward Jones, interviewed at that time with American Express Financial Advisors, but I already had a relationship with Thom. And, in business and in life, relationships matter. And I would say relationships matter the most. And so that's really, that was that conversation with Thom, and then finding out about all the advantages, all the benefits. With, for example, if you're working on a farm in the summertime and it's dry, well, you've got to run irrigation pipe. You've got to be out there. There's no system that does that all on its own. With what we do as a career, we have the flexibility to be able to set our own schedules and work our own hours. If my child has a ball game or they have a dance recital, I'm not going to schedule my work time when those important things happen. And so this industry for me, I knew that the income potential was really unlimited, which is a wonderful thing. But also it gave me the flexibility to be able to raise a family, and I knew that we were ready to do that. So.
And Ashley, you came to this business in a very different manner. So could you talk to us about being the wife of a farmer, and then, how did life bring you to this stage?
Well, right out of college, out of LSU, I began working in the insurance industry just as the in-trade claim rep. And I didn't know anything about insurance, and I just really kind of fell in love with it. It's kind of a geek thing to do, but I really fell in love with insurance, I think, because growing up, everybody in my small town was a nurse or a teacher, stayed at home, or had some kind of gift shop. And so insurance was just this subject matter that I didn't know anything about. And so I just kind of dove into it and was a claim rep for auto insurance. And then I moved into state and was a claim rep for State Farm. So my career before I stayed at home with my kids was in insurance. So when Jamie started insurance in New York Life, I was already in insurance with State Farm. So I commuted when we lived on the farm to Monroe, which was about an hour away. So when we moved to Baton Rouge and I was able to transfer, that was a pretty nice thing. And then after Mary Scott was about 3, and I stayed home for 12 years with Mary Scott and her brother James. But during that time, I started 2 small companies, part-time companies. One was a children's clothing market, and one was an event rental company. And the reason that I bring those up is I started it with a dear friend, and we had, a grand business plan. We worked on our business plan for months. It was a great idea. We were both hard workers, but then she and her husband got relocated. And sometimes things like that happen. And it doesn't matter how grand your plan is. It doesn't matter how hard you work. Sometimes things just don't work out, and you have to pivot and start a new course. But you learn from that, and you take what you learn, you take the relationship that you made, and you figure out how to redirect. And so after that, I started helping Jamie at his office in an administrative capacity, and that just wasn't. My brain doesn't really work like that. I'm more of a big picture entrepreneur person, and so I decided if I was going to be here, that I would go ahead and get my license too. So in 2017, I got my license and began working here pretty much full time. And so we don't really work, we work some together, but mostly we work parallel. And I think that's really probably what makes it work the best in a marriage, is that we don't work for each other. We work, we have our own clients and are basically our own small businesses.
And later in the conversation today, we'll come back to this idea of working together versus working for each other. But before we go there, I want to ask you about when both of you started sort of your entrepreneurial journey, started your own business. How did people around you react when you told them you are going to move from the farm to starting your own business? Was everyone like, hey, go for it? Or were there people around you who said, that's never going to work? Why are you doing this? So
I had some of both. I mean, I had people tell me I was crazy, that we have this farm that has been there for years and years and years in the family, and the future's kind of already laid out there. So I had people that thought I was really crazy to do this. And I had some of my best friends that said, Jamie, you're gonna knock it out of the park. You are exactly who needs to be out there working with people, that people trust, to give advice and create a really successful business. So, but I will say it was a big leap to have something already planned out ahead of you, with your family, to jumping off into the abyss and being completely independent from that is about as big of a step as I know of. It was hard, and it was hard on my father too.
Yeah, I bet, because when you said when you were in college, you were never concerned about what you were going to do because you had the farm to go back to, or you had the farm that was, that was your career plan. That resonated very well with me because that was me in college as well. Uh, from an early age, everyone knew I was going to go work in the family business. My dad knew it, I knew it, the whole family knew it. And of course, here I am, not in the family business. And life doesn't always take you in that direction. But actually, you stayed at home for 12 years and
I
then
did.
decided to come back. So, I mean, weren't there people around you who said, why? Or was everyone generally supportive?
No, everyone was super supportive. I've always been a busy person and wanted to have kind of my own deal. And I had that when I did do the other two small businesses, and they were seasonal, so I was able to stay at home and basically do those jobs more part-time. So I always knew that I was going to be doing something. But it wasn't the right time, I don't think. I think when I decided to do it, I was ready to, Mary Scott and James were going into middle school and high school. And it was just the right time for me to be able to super focus on, because I had to get all the license and I had to study and I had to pass the Series 6. And, those are easier to do when my kids were in the seasons that they were in, that I could really commit that much time to the education part mainly.
Wonderful. So, when both of you sort of look back, what do you think were some of the major challenges you had in starting or running the business? Given you sort of entered the business with different background, right? In some ways, I'm assuming you had different sort of challenges than, yeah.
I'll go first on that one.
Yeah, you go first.
And we discussed this yesterday. So when Jamie got in the business, of course, you have your natural market, and your natural market are your friends, your family, your college roommates, everybody that that's your natural market. You come in, you write every 200 people. I call it your project 200, and you write them all down, and you contact them, and you tell them what you're doing, and you're asked to to meet with them, just to give them an explanation of what you're doing and see how you can help them. Well, when I got in the business, he was I don't know, 15 years in. So everybody I knew, everybody I was related to, everybody I knew, everybody I'd gone to school with, everybody I had been on the phone with, Jamie had already contacted naturally, because that was the natural market for him. So when I started, I didn't have my mom and my dad, my brother and sister. So I had to really rely on acquaintances that I had met through kids' schools, junior league, different boards, different opportunities that I'd had in the community. I really had to dig deep. And I knew that going into it. But it was just, that was kind of the difference in the way we started. And I had to really rely on the company that, they give you, there's a lot of, this is a tough job. And there's a lot of agents, retire, resign. And so there's a lot of policyholders out there who don't have agents. And so I really relied on that part of that program that the company offers to give you opportunities to meet with policyholders who don't have agents. Jamie's really never done that. And so we really did have a different path in acquiring clients. And it's just an example how, you sometimes you just have to pivot and figure out a different way and figure out a different path to get in front of people. So that's was my, I think, challenge as far as acquiring clients, but Jamie has a different start on that.
Yeah, I mean, and she said it. I mean, when you start off in this business, you are 100% of the time you're starting off with a natural market or a warm market. People that will take your call, that will listen to you, have coffee with them, have a short meeting, and just talk a little bit about what you do. And what I still talk to people about today is, look, I want to be a financial resource for you. Now may be a great time to be able to dive into what you're doing. It may not be, but I want to be a financial resource for you. So that when the time is right, if I built that relationship correctly, maybe they'll think of me when they have questions, right, about planning. I would say one of the most important pieces of my success early on, though, was not just my natural market, because a natural market only has it's limited to a large degree. But the thought process in this career is that you ask for referrals from your natural market. And then once you do business with those referrals, you ask for referrals from them. So asking for referrals and success doing that is an important part of this business and being able to continue to grow it. Now, agents that are 20, 30 years in, if they choose to, they can just work out of their book of business and maybe not ask for referrals. But the only way that you're going to be top tier year in and year out is if you're bringing new clients into the door to work with. And so the referrals are critical, but that's true in a lot of sales positions. I think that one of the differences in our structure versus a State Farm or a larger PNC agency is that those agencies already have large books of business, and they market to those books of business, and there's no problem with that. But we make a higher, like on new sales, we make a little bit higher commission level because we're having to find that ourselves. Anytime you jump into a State Farm or something similar to that, those agents are going to get paid a little bit less, but the upside is they already have this enormous book of business to market to. So I hope that makes sense.
Wonderful. And I know we've already talked a little bit about your backgrounds and, kind of how you grew up or all that. But family, friends, teachers, anyone you sort of reflect had a major influence on how your career shaped up, or things you learned in life, or can you look back a little bit and tell us what life was like growing up? You both grew up in Louisiana. Was growing up very similar for the both of you?
Ash?
I would say somewhat similar. We both went to very similar schools. We didn't know each other growing up, but our schools played each other. So we grew up in very similar schools in very small towns. I was the oldest of three, so I was kind of the typical bossy oldest, big sister, maybe still am. And so I always kind of had a big picture mind in and what I wanted to do, not in grandiose, money or anything like that, but just idea wise. And I'm trying to think. Remind me of the question. I lost track of. Oh, who influenced us? So when I was in college, I was a nanny for a lady who had her own business. She was an entrepreneur, and she was a single mom. And she was very, she was a big time. and had a huge staff underneath her, she owned a home health care, and she was a nurse. And she taught me a lot. She expected a lot from me, which made me grow up. She had one daughter, and that was her angel, and I was kind of the co-parent. And she expected a lot from me. She expected me to be where I was supposed to be when I was supposed to be there, and she relied a lot on me. But I learned a lot from her and the way that she ran her business and how she was independent and how she stood up for herself. And so that I would say she was the biggest influence on teaching me how to communicate and just how to grow and think.
A couple of parts to that. So I would say my mother and father had probably the largest, both my mother and my father had the largest influence on me, especially as an early adult in choosing the career path that I chose. My mother was a math teacher for almost, close to 50 years. I've always had an interest in math, but I've always had a mother right there that could teach me what I didn't know. And so, so the mathematical part of the business that I'm in is fun for me. You know, if I have a client and we're working through a time value of money calculation to figure out how much they need to be saving each and every month for the next 25 or 30 years to retire with X amount of dollars of income at age 65, that's fun for me. That's something I can jump through, and I enjoy the math part of it. I think on my father's side, I think my father taught me a lot at an early age about loans, how interest works, about investments, about the stock market, about farmland, about paying off farmland. So I think I had a good base growing up, you know, as an early teenager even, and with a general understanding of some of those concepts. And so a lot of those concepts are still concepts that I share today with clients on how to improve, improve what they're doing. And the last thing I was going to say is, you know, I worked on the farm full time every summer from the time I was 11 years old. I mean, I was hoeing cotton fields at age 11, with my water bucket, and I think Dad was paying me $3 an hour or something like that. And as time progressed, and I enjoyed what I was doing, but I was working hard. But as time progressed, I was 24 years old, when Ashley and I decided to leave the farming operation and move back to Baton Rouge and go into this business. At the time, after taxes, I was taking home a paycheck of $309 a week for full-time work. And so at that point in my life, I said, you know, if I'm going to be working this hard, why not work this hard and actually be able to earn a real income, you know, something that's substantial. And so that's part of what led me to where I am today is I wanted to get paid for my time, and you know, each and every one of you guys out there, you're going to have the ability to make your own choices moving forward. And the first time you make that choice, it may or may not be the right choice, but you still have to be focused on down the road. And, you know, if I could go back and change doing anything the way that I did it, I don't see how I could. I didn't know where I was going to be when I was 24 years old. So
Now, let me ask you this. You both went to college, and I think you mentioned Louisiana State, both of you went there. What did you major in? And was entrepreneurship discussed in college back then? Was it a thing in college? Was it something that your teachers or your professors brought up as an option?
I don't remember very many discussions about entrepreneurship. I majored in agricultural business. I minored in agricultural economics and agronomy, which is soil science. So I don't remember hearing much about that. I will tell you that most of the people that were majoring in ag business were either going home to farm after school, or they were trying to get a chemical or seed rep job. which at the time are good paying jobs. There are not as many of them out there now, but there were a lot of them back in the late 90s. And then I also went to school with a couple of people that ended up being, that were bilingual, that ended up going to work for Cargill and basically doing deals, agricultural deals between the U.S. and Brazil and between the U.S. and Mexico. So that's where a majority of the people that I spent time around in ag business ended up.
And Ashley?
Like I said earlier, being from a small town, everybody was a teacher or one of the a nurse, lawyer, or own their own shop. And so I went in. My degree is in communicative disorders. So my plan was to be a speech pathologist. So I was in no building that talked about entrepreneurship, much less business. I wish that I had been exposed to those opportunities. So I think when I got out of college, I wasn't ready to go to grad school yet. I just was that's just kind of where I fell in love with insurance, because it was just something so foreign and not boring, like all the things I'd been studying since I was in kindergarten, basically. So yes, my degree was not anywhere close to what I'm doing now, but the experiences that I had and the people that I met, and just the portfolio of learning just through any class you are in college gives you just the experience for later. You don't have to have a degree in entrepreneurship or speech pathology or whatever it is. I think you just need to take advantage of the relationships, and learn how the way that you communicate with people and take their feedback, and just really hold on to the life lessons more than anything, that you learn in college, that can prepare you for whatever you want to do.
Wonderful. So now let me take you back to 2017 when Ashley comes back and you both start working together, but more of you working for your husband. How was it back then working together in the business as a married couple? And how is it now working two separate businesses but very related as a married couple?
Probably depends on who you ask first.
Ashley, I think we'll go with you then. We'll go first.
When you live with somebody every day we've been married almost 24 years, it wasn't quite as much fun to come in and work for him. Not that Jamie did anything wrong or was disrespectful or, we disagreed about anything. It was just fun. And it wasn't anything personal. It just wasn't really, I just didn't enjoy it. And, I don't know that if he did or not, but, when I decided in 2017 to get my license, parallel roles, and we're not in competition with each other. We help each other. We share business, but we really work in kind of silos. I mean, he has his clients, I have my clients. This is probably as much as we've talked during the day in a long time. If I go ask him a question, he's probably on the phone and vice versa. Sometimes he'll come in and bring his Chick-fil-A salad that he has every day into my office and eat it. But really, we don't communicate that much during the day, just because we're super busy, and that's what makes it work. I think the best is that we're doing our own thing. We just happen to be in the same office.
Yeah, because
Jamie, what do you think? Because when Ashley decided to come, start working for you, that's almost like having free labor.
Yeah.
So how was it for you?
That was the problem.
I mean, I was excited. I was excited for a number of reasons. One is I already have I kind of already had I had an active business already, right? So when Ashley came in, we already, she had a great resource in me, at least I think she did, in how to operate, what questions to ask, what people to contact. So she already had me to lean on as a resource. I think that a lot of times when people come into the business that I'm in, they don't have that resource. It's a lot of times they feel like it's all on them. But in this case, she got to step in and not have I think the financial stress that's the way I would put it. And I told her that from the beginning. I said, look, I said, if you decide to do this, you're going to be able to step in here and help us be more successful. But I don't want you feeling the financial stress of what you're doing because we already have this figured out. You're just adding more value to our proposition. There are certain people that from time to time, I mean, my time is so limited when I'm in the office because I'm either really, at the end of the day, I only get paid to schedule appointments and meet with people. If I'm not scheduling appointments or meeting with people, then to me, that's non-profitable work or it's not producing anything. So I have to focus on that. So now, when I move forward to today, I'm doing more, I'm doing more work with retirement planning. A lot of times on clients that I've had for 5, 10, 15 years. Ashley's got a little bit different focus on her side. And we don't, effectively, we don't have a lot of time to communicate in the day, but at the same time, we're 20 feet away from each other and we can ask questions and get answers. So I think it works really well, the way that we're set up now. But the other thing about her coming to work is I'm thinking, okay, well, we're going to have kind of an additional income, kind of an additional profit structure. She's going to be able to contribute to some retirement plans and things like that we weren't doing before. So, and she had time to do it. I mean, when your kids are young, they require a lot. When your kids are 13, 14, 15, and they're in school most of the time, that kind of opens up another window of opportunity for time for, in this case, Ashley. So, she was ready to do something, and this was here. I guess the last piece I would add is, which is beautiful, is we have our own succession plan between us. Okay, so if I check out before she does, if I die before she does, she's got this entire book of business that she's going to inherit and be able to work as long as she wants to, and vice versa. There are a lot of agents in our business that don't have that. They don't have that security. So in our case, it works well on a lot of different levels, and we love what we do. And this is also a career that we can drive this bus as hard as we want to for as long as we want to, or we can choose in the future to start stepping back. Maybe we bring in another agent or two to work in our book of business, and maybe we can take some time off for ourselves. So there are a lot of down the road advantages, as we get a little closer to retirement. I mean, I'm 47. I'm not retiring tomorrow, but I don't think I want to be working as many hours in 15 years as I am today. So it's my take.
That makes sense. And we'll talk about succession planning in a few minutes, especially, when we talk about sort of how do you see your kids' sort of future and your business future. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Let me ask you one more question, and then I'll open it up to the students for questions, and then we'll ask other questions from there. How do you maintain work-life balance as an entrepreneur and a parent? You've both been married for more than 2 decades now. You have kids going to college. So in some ways, you must have managed to have a good work-life balance. But what did that work-life balance look for you as over the years?
I guess I'll go first on this.
Yeah.
I would say my work-life balance was not great my first 10 years in the business because I was so focused on earning money and paying the bills and running the business. I think it's been a lot better the last 7 or 8 years, but I will say it's, when you're in a career that requires a lot of you and a lot of time, it's not easy to keep that work-life balance up. I think in the last 7 or 8 years, I think it's been much better for me. I think I've been able to probably spend more time with both of my children in the last 6, 7, 8 years than I did maybe before that. But it is something you have to consider. It is something you only have so much time to spend in a day. How are you going to spend it? I'm trying to get that balanced.
And I would say that one of the reasons that I chose this path when I was ready to get back into the workforce was because it did allow for a work-life balance. When you own your own business, you have the flexibility to set those standards and those boundaries. And so when I was considering where to go, what to do, and what skills I had. This was certainly where owning my own business, where I had the potential for the greatest achievement, for success and for income at the same time, be able to set my own schedule and be there at everything that I needed to be there for. So this career, being a business owner definitely gives that flexibility as a mom for work-life balance, because you can work hard, and then you can take off. So you can definitely, that's one advantage of being a business owner, that you do have that room for balance.
Wonderful. And at this time, I will invite the students to ask any questions that they might have. They can raise their hand, they can unmute themselves and ask a question. Anyone? Okay, as we are waiting for the students to ask their think about what question they're going to ask, let me ask you the question I hinted to you that I'm going to ask you earlier, which is, you have 2 kids, and you're not, of course, ready to retire yet. You still have quite some time before you get there. But do you see the paths of your kids and your business intersecting at any point? What role do you see entrepreneurship playing in your kids' life? Could you speak to either your business or another business as a potential path for your kids?
Yeah, this, like I say, we have this business is here for really Mary Scott or James, either one, if they choose to try this out, or pick the reins up at some point in time and move forward with it. I will tell you that in the New York Life group, there are 3rd and 4th generation New York Life agents. And there are quite a number of them. So that should tell you what the structure is like long term. I mean, we've got agents here in Baton Rouge that have been active for 50, 51 years now. So it's definitely a good place to be. But at the same time, to me, I think one of the great things is there's no pressure. Not like the pressure I felt from the family farm, being having 3 sisters, and I'm the only son. So there's no pressure there, but I will say it's a viable business. There are less insurance agents and advisors today than there were 10 and 20 years ago. People are actively seeking financial advice. 71% of people in the U.S. are underinsured when it comes to life insurance. So, there's a huge demand for what we do, and it is converting itself more and more into holistic planning or fee-based financial planning. But it's not going away, and it's really not a hidden industry at this point. There are a lot of dollars that change hands with retirement, with death, with bonuses. People get better jobs, maybe they lose a good job. So there's money moving all over the place, and we're really just there to help guide them, when it's necessary, when it's appropriate.
But to add to that, that I think back to the question is, the structure of New York Life allows us to choose our successor. So, if Mary Scott and James, decided that this was not for them, we don't have the pressure of finding someone else to fill that spot. New York Life has a successor program. And so that they support us, and we can choose basically who we want to be our successor within New York Life. So it's not something that we have to put pressure on our kids about, because if they want it, it's theirs. But we have a different, there's an alternative that is a great system that New York Life provides.
Okay, and let me ask you a follow-up question on this, because this is something we discussed in class as well. One generation spends often a lifetime sort of building a business to a certain point. And then if the next generation doesn't sort of step into that business, yeah, you can sell it, or like you said, in New York Life, you can sort of give it, sell it to an outside party. But then, it's gone, right, from the family. So is that something you guys think about? Is that something you think people in the business who've been 50 years, James mentioned that there are other people in this business he knows who've been doing this for a lot longer. Do you think this is something that people struggle with?
I mean, I do. I think Jamie would agree, because we have relationships with agents that have chosen us as their successor agents, and they're friends that we've known for 25 years, and they've been in the business for 50 something years, and they're just now ready to make that call of who that's going to be, and usually the agents are deciding that towards the end of their career, just because they're not ready. I mean, it's just a career that people spend their life doing, and but those relationships are made, and so it's not necessarily like you're giving it to a stranger. We build relationships, and the agents who have been so kind to make us their successor agent, it's because we are like family.
Jamie, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, there are a lot that I would say there are a lot of agents that don't ever retire, that don't officially retire in our position. But again, it goes back to the relationships. If you spend 20 or 30 years building relationships with people, and they trust you with everything, they trust you with their life savings, they trust you with their family. It's a position where, as long as we stay licensed, even if we're only active a couple of days a week, we can continue to not only solve those problems, but earn some additional income for ourselves. So there maybe sometimes there's not a big push to retire fully. And I think most of us really genuinely enjoy what we do. And that's going to be key, with any of your students. When you choose a career, you obviously want to choose something you enjoy doing. There are plenty of careers you can choose, make good money, that you don't enjoy, and makes it a lot more difficult mentally. So, but we enjoy what we do, and I think that's kind of that's kind of the way we're looking forward at it.
Okay. So again, let me remind students that you can ask questions anytime, and I encourage you to ask questions. In the meantime, Jamie and Ashley, let me ask you another question. A lot of our students say they feel family or social pressure to go work for a large corporation, right? Like Apple, Google, some sort of marquee brand that becomes a social status for them, right? For the family as well as for them. And then there are students who say, that really entrepreneurship, starting with nothing or very little is not really that's not what parents send them to college for, right? To go sort of struggle after college to start a business. You both are parents, you're also successful entrepreneurs. what role do you think entrepreneurship should play in your or will play in your kids' career, even outside the context of the business you're in? Or do you want them to go work, I don't know, New York City, Boston, Los Angeles?
Yeah, well, one thing to always consider related to that is that, anytime you go to work for a large corporation or a smaller corporation, as an employee, you're always expendable. You're always expendable. There's someone else they could hire to do your job. As an entrepreneur, you at least have control of that. Okay. You at least have control of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And I would argue that as an entrepreneur, you're not expendable. If they're your ideas and you're operating your own business, you're the boss, you're in charge. There's no one looking over your shoulder telling you what you have to do. Look, and I'm not picking on people that work for businesses that are successful, but there is a ton of upside potential and control that you have when you're operating a small business for yourself.
And in contrast to that, though, I will say I did have the opportunity to work for two different corporations, and I can't say enough about the things that I learned from those companies in the way of communicating with, because what I was doing was claims, so I was directly in contact and communicating with plaintiffs and with our insureds who are the defendants, and the what I learned from those corporations in the ways of file keeping, and there's a lot of administrative, a lot of office graces. There's a lot to be learned when you work for a corporation that if you decide to be an entrepreneur as well, it can only enhance your knowledge and the way that you run your business. Because when you go work for a business, you learn how to run a business. You learn how that business is run. You learn what the assistants are supposed to do. You learn about phone etiquette. There's a lot of things that you learn that if you didn't know, you wouldn't know how to run a business. So I think there's a lot to be learned from watching other people run businesses and learning how to do things that can make your business a success.
Jamie, I noticed you added something, but we missed that.
Yeah, just professionalism. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to know how to be professional if you've never been in the business world before. But those are things that are important. I mean, they're very important. And the only way to learn that is really to be around other professionals. So, I don't know that I learned how to be professional working on a cotton farm. I'll just be honest, but certainly when I came to work in this office, we dress nice. We had, etiquette's important. I mean, there are certain things you just don't do in the office. Nowadays, there's a lot of things you can't do in the office that have already been typed up and written that you can't do. So, just being professional and then from the business side of things, guys, it's be likable, right? Be likable. I mean, that's how you build relationships. You have empathy for others. You listen, you're genuinely interested in what's going on with them, and just be likable. And that can get you a long way.
Let me ask you another follow-up question, Ashley and Jamie. When we discussed family businesses in class, we talked about businesses that involve the kids from a young age in the business. Maybe they take them to the office. Maybe they have them do some things over the summer or vacations or whatever. They bring back stories from the office to the family dinner table, talk about, lessons for business, life lessons, challenges, struggles. Did you two do any of that with your kids? Did you involve them in the business? I know, Jamie, you said you were involved in the family business yourself from the age of 11, but how was it with you and the next generation, both of you?
Mary Scott, do you want to answer that? Mary Scott had when I had a children's clothing market. Mary Scott and all of her friends were my free labor, and they would get service hours for coming to sort clothes. We had our Lollipop Lane market. Because I think that one of the most important values that you can teach your children is how to work. I mean, you can be the smartest person in the room, you can be the most articulate person in the room, but you got to know how to work. And and that's a work ethic is something that no one can take away from you. And when Mary Scott and James were little, I had them sorting shoes and toys and clothes, and they would put their aprons on and they would go at it. And I think that I hope that some of Mary Scott's hopes for being an entrepreneur is that she's seen us work really hard all the time, and with that hard work it comes. We've had failures and we've had success, but mostly success. And so, yes, I don't know that Jamie did as much, but I certainly had them schlepping plates and doing things for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I spent, like, with them involving me in the business, what mom did was more after hours. So when I was, like, in school and I would go, like, and she would pick me up, I mean, we'd be working until dark trying to get the store ready. And I spent time in Dad's office as well, but it's different because he kind of worked the same hours I was in school. So I got a little experience just like filing and doing stuff like that, but I wasn't like working hard in Dad's office. I was like working hard for
Mom.
And Jamie, do you think you could have or should have done more, or do you think you made the right decision by not involving them as much?
No, I mean, I wish in retrospect, no, I wish I had both of them involved up here, a lot more. James really has not been involved in our office at all, ever. And Mary Scott just to a limited extent.
But he's had sports and other things that,
yeah. But back, like I say, back when they were younger, she was really in charge of them and getting them where they needed to be and so forth, and doctor's appointments and school and everything else. And so in retrospect, no, I wish they had been here more, but they really haven't. This has been more of a separate, really a separate entity almost.
Right. Right. And we look back, but we don't live in hindsight, right? I mean, so yeah. We make the decisions we make, and then we look back and we can think about what we did and not did. But okay, this brings us towards sort of the end of the conversation. I'm going to ask the students once more if they have any questions, and I'm going to ask you. I know we've already talked about sort of your advice for some of the advice you've given to students, but is there any one last piece of advice that you would like to give 21, 22-year-olds who are on the verge of graduating and beginning their career? These are all your daughter's colleagues and friends. So what advice would you have for people that age?
I would just say, don't be afraid to take risk. Even if it doesn't work out, you're going to learn from it. You're going to be able to carry what you learn to the next, your next venture. Sometimes things just aren't going to work out, no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you work. But just pivot and move forward, and don't get caught up in the far future. Just take the opportunities where you are right now, and take one opportunity at a time and evaluate it. And make a decision, and things will work themselves out. And so I would just say, don't take risk and don't get caught up so far ahead of yourself that you miss the opportunities and the relationships, and the advice and the feedback that is right in front of you. That would be my advice.
And I would just add to that. Number one, always do the right thing. I mean, you hear that, maybe you don't hear as much now as you did when you were young and your parents were telling you, But in business, doing the right thing is everything. I mean, you know, the trust factor, you just can't put enough value on that piece of it. So do the right thing, put a ton of effort into whatever you're doing. You know, be passionate about it. And keep your activity high. That's the other thing. That's the other thing is, you know, one of my main rules here is, hey, work while you're at work. So, and I realize that some of the guys down the hallway may not think I'm the nicest person in the building, but when I'm here at the office, I'm running my business here in the office. I'm not standing in the hallway for 45 minutes drinking coffee. So, you know, if you're going to do it, just get it done.
Wonderful. And on that note, let me thank you very much for giving your time generously to visit with our students. Let me ask you if it's okay for students to reach out to you if they have questions or LinkedIn
Sure.
or anything else. Is that okay?
Absolutely. It's been our pleasure to spend this hour with y'all. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
thank you guys for your time in talking to Jamie and Ashley Thom today.
Yes.
That's the end of the class. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.